Hello and welcome to Housing Tips, the show where we go over the housing market news, housing tips, and other housing related information. If any of this sounds interesting to you, please consider subscribing. My name is Eric, and today joining me is Jesse, who is the co host. And I would love to go over our backgrounds for our first episode. Since this is our first episode, Jesse, would you love to go over your background?
Yeah, so welcome everyone. My name is Jesse with the Mendoza Real Estate team. In regards to background, well, I've been doing real estate for about 10 years. Actually went to school first, got my master's degree, and then after realized that I just love real estate too much. My mom's a real estate agent. I grew up around just realtors. And so as a little kid, I just kind of was always in the office. I was like 6, 7 years old in the meetings. I'd be in like the broker's back office. At that time, I would even be kind of brought to like some open houses and tourings. So it's in my blood. So I love it. And trying to, help families and just kind of get into housing. So, Eric, tell me a little bit about your background with real estate.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you. Thank you. I would honestly say I know nothing about real estate. I know nothing about houses. And that's the whole reason why I want to start this podcast, where I want to have the ability to learn about houses, how to purchase houses, questions that might seem like they're small and trivial to most people. But for myself, I definitely want to know the answers to. And so that's why I created this podcast. And Jesse and I are going to host it and we're going to go through questions. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we would love to make videos about it. And yeah, that's my backstory. I have zero clue about housing and real estate. So it's great that you're on this with me, Jesse, because honestly, I know nothing about it. And I just want to learn more. And I think before making big purchases, researching anything is very important. Awesome. So let us get into our first topic for today. And as it is no surprise, at the time of recording this podcast, we actually have a new CPI report that just came out, and I will go and share my screen. What are your thoughts about the new CPI report, Jesse?
Yeah, so the report came out today. Annual inflation rose 2.9%. So that was like the lowest reading since March 2021. So I feel like that's going to create pressure in regards to the mortgage rates, especially this fall, especially like in the winter time, because as inflation pressures ease, there's then the expectation that rates could stabilize or they could even decrease if the Federal Reserve, opts to lower interest rates this year. I mean, that'd be huge, in regards to increasing affordability just for buyers. Because today, I mean, the average rate is about 6.76%. So depending on your rate and it increasing, just really affects your affordability as a purchaser.
Now, in your experience, since you've been in the industry now for 10 years, plus your family's been in it for years and years, what are your thoughts about higher interest rates, lower interest rates? How does that affect the market compared to, yeah, I know 2 years ago it was crazy. There was tons of houses available, but today, how was the higher interest rates comparing to buying and selling houses?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it makes a big, you know, difference in regards to your affordability. Higher interest rates are really going to increase the cost of borrowing. So that's going to be your higher monthly mortgage payment, right? So then that can reduce just purchasing power. So then we've noticed that that's led to a slowdown in home sales. And so fewer people can really afford to buy homes. Market has kind of started to cool down. So if there's fewer buyers to afford homes, then that demand is starting to decrease. We've noticed properties usually during the pandemic, right, were in escrow like the day of the next day. And now we're starting to see that, it's taking a little bit longer time, 30 days, 45 days. And so could cause home prices to stabilize or even decrease.
No, definitely. So someone that's a first-time home buyer, anyone that's a first-time home buyer, is it better to have a higher interest rate but have less competition, or have lower interest rates but more competition? Because I know, like exactly like you said, during the pandemic when interest rates were near zero, it really made more people go around and, like you said, one-day offers and one-day escrows and
Yeah, I mean, the moment that interest rates significantly dropped, there was a lot of competition. Um, I was out with multiple buyers at that time, and people were overbidding like 40, 50, 100,000 over asking price. People were moving contingency, so it was very difficult. I would say I'd recommend, just to right now might even be a really, really good time. You're taking more time. Houses are sitting, and you're able to get into a property. And then in the future, you'll be able to kind of adjust or make any changes to your interest rate.
no, definitely. And then actually, I do have a really good question for you that I've heard. So the interest rate you said was 6.76 currently, right? Is that what you were
Right.
saying it is? So what happens with that interest rate? Do you pay the 6.76, or do you have to pay extra points, or do things need to be added to the interest rate when you're purchasing a house?
Yeah. So usually your lender's gonna try to give you the best and current rate at that time. And then depending on your mortgage lender, you can pay points to be able to lower it. So I know, like for example, did you end up doing that in regards to your interest rate?
Yes. So when I bought my first condo, we did it was 6.5, and then we paid, and it's scaling factor, correct? Where you pay a certain amount, you'll drop down to this percentage. You do another certain amount, it'll go down to this percentage. So we paid it down, I want to say half a point that we were able to pay down, but it was very expensive. I think it was like an added $10,000 just to get it down almost half a point. And then taking it even lower than that, it was something ridiculous, like $20,000 out of pocket to
Mm,
pay to get it down even lower.
right, right. I mean, typically a point they'll will make it 1%. So usually it's like 1% of the total amount. And so you
Mhm.
can buy down the rate. Each point typically reduces the interest rate by 0.25%, but it can vary
Mhm.
by lender. So I mean, paying points can be a really good strategy. Like if you plan to stay in the home for a long time, as the lower interest rate can save you more in the long run than the upfront cost of the points. Um, for others, maybe that might not be a good idea, and so I think just having that discussion with your realtor, with your lender, would be good to set that plan.
No, definitely. And then one question I have seen a lot, even for myself, that I've had is when interest rate or when inflation cools or interest rate cools or interest rates are about to change, does that cause more people to consider buying and selling, or do most people wait until the next plunge comes down to make a purchase?
Yeah, when inflation cools or it's about to change, it sometimes it's a little bit of a limbo. I know people kind of wait, or they say, I'm gonna wait until election season.
So one question I had, Jesse, was that if interest rates are higher for longer, or they stay the same for a long time, does that make people more willing to wait until interest rates come down, or are they willing to bite the bullet now and then ride it out as the interest rates change?
Yeah. When inflation is high, there's often uncertainty like about future costs. And so I think that usually deters people from like making large purchases. As inflation cools, then that expectation of like more stable prices can really reduce this uncertainty. So that it makes people more comfortable with the idea of buying a home. So potential buyers, we try to time the market to really secure the lowest possible mortgage rate.
And
And
everything I've heard, there's no way to time the market. You just gotta get like you just gotta get in when you can.
that's what's the quota? The best time to purchase a property is like yesterday or 20 years ago.
That's
we
what
we've s-
everyone says.
yeah, we've seen that trend, and especially in California, in regards to equity and time and how it helps you out. But I think when people start to time it or expect to, rates to drop and that be the right time, you're gonna face a lot of competition.
Oh, definitely. And so as first time home buyers, do they feel that having an agent that's very knowledgeable in everything that they're doing, do you think that is what will help new home owners and new home buyers the most, is having a very knowledgeable person
No,
compared to
definitely.
someone who buys and sells houses for years, or they're buying their second investment property or something?
Definitely. I think, investors or people who, um, are in the business, they just kind of change around their purchasing criteria. But there's investors and people in the business who are still have been purchasing these past 10 years and are still purchasing right now. Maybe their criteria is a little bit different. But for the first time home buyer, especially as prices, increasing, it can be nerve wracking. So you want, a professional who's able to guide you through that process and all the different steps, it takes in regards to qualifying for the loan, in regards to looking at houses, in regards to, all the research and behind the scenes work that ends up happening.
Oh, definitely. That is great to hear. Actually, speaking of real estate agents, one of the most easiest ways to find houses is on Zillow, and that actually leads us to our next topic. Is the new Zillow law that just came out that everyone is buzzing about. I see all over social media, and I would love to hear your thoughts. It says that Zillow's new touring agreement helps agents stay ahead of NAR settlement challenges. If you could go into backstory about that and how it's going to affect people buying and selling houses. I've heard stories where some people very close to me are trying to sell their property, and now there's crazy things where people are asking for 9%, the seller's looking for 6%, the buyer's looking for 3%. I know that sounds insane. I don't know what's right, what is right and what's wrong, but would love to hear your thoughts about that and the new upcoming Zillow agreement.
Right. So the new law that will be into effect, all buyers need to have a signed agreement with a realtor. Um, that agreement has already been out for some time, but to say that realtors would actually have them sign or would use them, not too much. And so typically it would be more of a verbal, you know, buyers would contact a lender, contact a realtor to start the process. You'd be referred, to someone, or maybe you ask around your family friend and then start kind of looking at houses. But I like that now actually this agreement creates structure. I think it creates transparency. So the law in regards to you'll have that form and saying, this is who I'll be working with. This is the percent commission for the realtor. And the goal to work on negotiating those costs with the seller and creates just full transparency. Now, Zillow, they created their own form because almost everyone uses that platform, and you have the simplicity of clicking and then making an appointment to go look at a property. I Have you used that kind of feature before?
Yeah, I actually have. And with your advice, you're actually saying if you fill out that form to like view a house, you're almost signing an agreement that if you use another agent to actually purchase the house, that they can maybe get a cut of that. Is that true?
Yeah, it's so implicit, but the moment that you're requesting an appointment, you're already like working with that agent. So in the past, I've had buyers that I had helped qualify with the loan. We had set a plan. I think one got excited and wanted to view a property. And so later that week told me, hey, I saw this house. I really like it. Help me out. I want to make an offer. And I was just like, how did you see the property? So it was just like, yeah, on Zillow. And So as I spoke to the listing agent, it was just they were telling me you didn't show the property. I have record of this person. So then that agent, was trying to communicate and say, hey, I took my time to, drive this amount, educated, the client. So I would like a percentage off of that commission. So it gets really messy.
Wow.
It gets really tricky.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then with your experience as someone from the other side, because I'm more of a consumer side looking for a new house. From the other side, which website would you recommend looking for houses? Is Zillow still the gold standard, or there's like realtor.com? There's like tons and tons of different ones. What are your thoughts about them?
Yeah, they're all pretty much the same. They duplicate the information that gets posted from real estate agents on the MLS. So the moment that I'll post a listing on the MLS, it'll post to Zillow, it'll post to Realtor, it'll post to Open Door. Usually those be the key main ones, Redfin as well. But your agent that you work with can also create you a portal. You can have access to all the MLS information. Um, my clients, the moment I start with them, I create a portal, and then I do my search criteria. I can send them properties, and they can favorite the ones that they like. They can set comments. So I like that back and forth because they can get lost like through text and links. It can get a little bit difficult.
No, definitely. And then as someone, just explaining, because I do want to help make content for anyone who's trying to buy a house, what is the MLS? Because you're saying Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, they all pull from the MLS. What is the MLS?
Yeah, the MLS is our software and system that realtors will use. There's different ones depending on which state location that you're in, even based on counties. But on that database, we're able to post properties for sale, and we're able to make changes, whether if it's pending or whether if it's coming soon. And so then that information gets posted to the public. And so it's a great feature, whereas before that was information that wasn't available to the public in the past. You had to contact your realtor. Your realtor used to listen to what criteria you wanted, and they would tell you, hey, Eric, I have these 4 houses to show you for today. You kind of had to just trust them and be like, okay. But what if you didn't like those properties, right? What if you're getting frustrated or so I like the ability of having that back and forth and having that combination with the buyer.
Oh, definitely. I definitely think more knowledge is power. And that is why I wanted to create this podcast and ask you questions and do research because I'm a very strong believer that knowledge is power. Just learning about what the MLS is, learning about all these different tips and tricks, that's what primarily I want to use this platform for is to help educate people and talk to people and be able to answer any questions that people have about buying houses. Because as someone who's been in the game for 10 years, it's probably the largest purchase most people make in their entire lives.
That's scary, to you need to have someone that you trust because a purchase of 800, 900,000, a million plus, and you want someone who is knowledgeable that you can feel that support and education and just, sit back and know that, they have your back.
No, no, that is fantastic to know. I did want to move to our last topic before this podcast is over. I know we have some, every single time we do one of these podcasts, I definitely want to go over what your thoughts are of the current housing market. I know that we wrote some things up, we have some notes about it. Everything got flipped on its head because of the CPI report that just came out, but would love to hear your overall thoughts for this week, your overall thoughts about where the current housing market is and for people maybe that are first time home buyers, people that are just want to buy maybe a condo, people that are trying to sell their house. What are your thoughts currently as we wrap up this podcast?
Yeah, the market today, it remains competitive. Prices are still continuing to rise in many different areas.
And to be completely transparent, Jesse and I are both based out of Southern California, so housing market here is a lot different than other places. But we're going off our experience and what we're learning in the Southern California area. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Yeah, no, no problem. Yeah, especially LA County, but I've noticed sections of, pace of growth has slowed. Like mentioned earlier, properties that are on the market for longer time. It's been probably since I entered the market. This is the first time that I'm really seeing properties 30 plus days. People used to just price it higher and it would sell. And now we need to be a little bit more just kind of mindful of condition, of comps in the area. And so with the higher rates, it's more expensive for the buyer, so it's slowed down.
Mhm.
And then now, from what we saw from the CPI report, looks like it'll be better for purchasers in the long run. But n- we've noticed more increased demand actually for like condos and townhomes.
Interesting, interesting. Maybe I'll be posting my my condo then. If if like you said, I in my eyes, I always thought a single family home with a big yard, a driveway, a car garage. I always thought that was the gold standard. But you're saying that people are actually considering condos and townhomes now?
Yeah. Pe- People are liking the amenities that it has to offer. Having their space, being able to access the gym, being able to have that community, and less upkeep. A lot of people now, especially in Southern California, LA County, their schedules are very busy. And so to be able to upkeep with the lawn or other type of repairs, it gets tough. And so we've noticed more increase for that type of setting.
So speaking of condos, I actually own a condo, Jesse, and you're saying that it might be a time to look for a new property because you said that condos and townhomes are more viable options right now for people.
Yeah, people are really liking that type of living situation. You're able to have your space, you're able to enjoy the amenities, you have your community. Um, and due to the soaring prices of single family homes, and also it's a lot of upkeep. Um, with her schedules being super busy and work, it's hard for families to upkeep, lawn repairs, having, set money aside for all of those costs. It
Yeah.
gets challenging. So there has been more increase for that type of um, living situation.
No, definitely. I 100% feel that. Where especially at my condo, I don't have any grass or anything. I don't have any outside maintenance or upkeep, and a lot of the time that's actually great. I don't want to cut my own grass. I don't want to, take care of pests and all that. So sometimes, yeah, condos and townhomes can be a viable option for first-time home buyers. But I know seeing our parents, we've seen them have first time, having nice big houses or homes, and in our heads, it's well, why can't I have that? Why not? That's something I can't have. But definitely, I think first time buying a condo and a townhome is a great way to learning about home ownership because as myself, I knew nothing about this, and I still feel like I don't know anything about this as I try to prepare and research and learn about possibly buying a bigger property. But thank you so much today, Jesse, for the time. I really appreciate it. We're going to keep doing these types of podcasts. We're going to keep going into different topics. Next week we'll be talking about different Zillow properties, and Jesse here will actually go through some properties and we can actually review them and rate them as what I see through my eyes, what Jesse sees through his professional lens, and yeah, more to come with that. If any of this information was helpful to you, please consider subscribing. And thank you so much. And thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.